Everybody will please rise, and Father Clar will say grace. Each in his own words, each in his own way. Bow your heads and let us pray. Amen.
He talks later. It does work. You got it on.
You have an extra plate coming to have them bring one for you. Some of us ordered 2 meals, or 1 meal for 2 children, so mention to bring an extra plate. Right now with our program for this evening.
Paper towel in the bathroom.
You people go right out and finish up if you want to. When I came here today, only God and I knew what I was going to say. And now only God knows. My children told me today, if nobody laughed at my jokes, I was supposed to be pulling my ear. So if you see me pulling my ear tonight, you'll know that they're supposed to be laughing. One of the reasons that we're here tonight is to honor our bantams that are graduating. The bantams are in the age bracket called the awkward age. They're too young for a baby. They're too young to leave home alone, and they're too old to trust with a babysitter. And we can always tell when it's hockey season. That's when the girls whistle at the boys in sweaters. Okay, I'll get you on the right track now. We have a guest here tonight with us from the Olympic team. Let us all honor Mr. John Taft over here in the corner. Some of you people do not know it, but Bob Beecher was a great goalie in his day. In fact, he had a string of 23 consecutive shutouts. Came down to the last game of the season. Bob had 5 shots shot at him, and all 5 went right between his pads for goals. Took his mask off, went over to the box, told the coach he was quitting the game. Went down to the locker room, changed into his street shoes, went out on the street corner waiting for the bus and thought, I'm going to end it all and step right out in front of this big city bus. Big bus was coming down the street, ran out in front of the bus, and the bus went right between his legs. I was talking, one of my players this year was Jeff Norstetter. And he was telling me, he said, my father must have been a very mischievous boy because he knows every question what to ask me when I've been doing something. Although Harold Jordan is not with us tonight, here's what he has presented to President Weaver at the university. We have many practice teachers and practice nurses and practice doctors. He said that no person at the university should graduate until they have spent 2 weeks of miscellaneous at the Park Street shoe repair. I have a poem brought up here. Is Joey Clemente right here now? Where's Joey? Stand up a minute. Joey wrote a poem. I'm going to read it to you. It's about ice skating. The first time I went skating, I thought it was heating. But I kept trying and trying until I felt like dying. When starting out, I kept falling down. Sooner or later, I'll crack my crown. When I fall down, I don't really mind because you have to do it sometime. And that was his poem. You know, the hardest part about learning how to skate is the ice, when you get right down to it. I was listening to Spike Aaron one night. They had an hour of practice before we did. And during the whole 50 minutes, they hadn't scored 1 goal. They shot on both goalies. Never scored a goal. Spike lined up 10 pucks on the blue line. He said, now boys, watch. He shot all 10 pucks, and none of them even came close to the cage. He said, now you see what you guys have been doing wrong. Now go out there and make some goals. Is Vic Scarrow in the crowd? Oh, yes, isn't he? Last Christmas vacation, when I was down in Manchester shopping, I was watching behind the corner, and Vic Scarrow was shopping for some life-size dolls for his daughters. He squeezed one of them and said, "Mama!" Then he squeezed another kind of doll, and it went, "Floor walker! Floor walker!" Okay, everybody. We're going to bring up our main speaker for tonight. Before we give him a great big build-up, I'm going to tell you a few things about him. This young man has been in the men's leagues as a player. He was the first president of Dane County Youth Hockey Organization. This was for 7 years. He tells me at that time there were only 3 leagues in Dane County. He also helped start Dane County. He started Southside Hockey. At one time, he coached 2 different state champions. He had a state Pee Wee champ, a state Bantam champ. He was a referee in high school and in the Dane County leagues. He was a director at one time or other for Southside Hockey Association, and he just completed now a year as president of the Blue Line Club here in Madison. So let us all meet our number, Mr. Southside Hockey, Bob Fuller.
They don't have our mighty dancing
Thanks, Jim. You know, it's amazing. If I had just a few of you cornered down the VFW and we all had a beer in our hand, I'm sure I could talk for 2 hours and not stop. But up here, appropriate words are kind of hard to come by. I'll start by saying good evening to our distinguished guests up here and all you future National Hockey League players out there. And a big hi to all the rest of you hockey nuts that are sitting here. You know, Southside Hockey was started some 15 years ago. And I think maybe a half a dozen couples sat around the kitchen table over at Jim Hughes' house. And they decided to organize the Southside Club. From that meeting, this club has moved forward to be one of the strongest hockey organizations in the state as it is today. We've made some great strides from that time till now. As an example, you peewees out there, how many of you still wear your sister's or your mother's pink frilly garter belt to hold up your hockey socks? I saw one hand. Now that's progress. I remember that first set of Pee Wee uniforms. We passed the uniforms out. Next day the kids showed up for practice. Boy, these socks were a problem. Some of them had the socks taped to their legs. Other ones had diaper pins and pinned them to their arm underwear. One ingenious lad had his suspenders hooked on his hockey sock. His socks stayed up, but his pants were in trouble. Eventually, everybody got squared away with this pink paraphernalia. And one problem, if you had all boys in your family, it took a lot of fortitude to go ask the neighbor girl for one of her old garter belts. You know, the sporting goods stores didn't carry a complete line of equipment like they do today. And most of them had skates, shin guards, and sticks, and some of them had some gloves. And I often wonder what would have happened if the era of pantsuits and, what do you call these things? Pantyhose would have came a little sooner. We'd have been in real trouble with those first socks. Now this first set of uniforms was probably the easiest set that we ever had to solicit for. We had a Pee Wee team that was coached by a young man named Brian Briggs and myself. Our uniforms were overall pants and a green t-shirt that Milt Kneebone stenciled Southside Hockey across the front. Well, we entered our first state tournament, got down to the final game. It was Southside against the Lakers. Now, we played the Lakers twice before that season. They beat us 1-0, and we tied them 1-1. Well, when the final horn sounded, we had bested the Lakers 8-2 and had our first Pee Wee state championship. Well, all state championships deserve a party. We took the Pee Wees down to Bancroft Dairy. That's when they had the ice cream parlor down there. And they all bellied up to the counter, and they had our trophy, and they set that up there. And when things were done, they were all full of every imaginable type of ice cream that they could eat. That's the players. Now came the party for the parents. Well, this was at Fuller's house. And it really wasn't a spontaneous thing because I had a hunch that maybe we could beat the Lakers. So the day before, Harold Hansen and myself, we went down the basement and we got out a big kettle. And this was about the size of a bushel basket. And we literally cooked a bushel basket full of meatballs and sauce for a party. Well, to complement the spaghetti, we also hauled in 2 half barrels of beer and set them up in the kitchen. Now as the beer flowed and the food disappeared, the telephone rang several times during the night. And anybody who was near the phone, they'd grab it up and say, Southside Hockey State Champs. Well, about 9 businessmen heard of our accomplishments through the grapevine, and they called our house and volunteered to sponsor a uniform for one of our kids. You know, I really like to reminisce about some of this stuff because, to coin a phrase, victory is so sweet. I'm sure you've heard the expression, necessity is the father of invention. Well, this really fits our club because necessity is money and invention is all the things we think of and do to get it. I remember our first tree lot. Our club was solvent for $400. I asked for the $400. I wanted to go up to Adams County, buy some Christmas trees. Well, after a couple of meetings, the board of directors agreed to put all the eggs in one basket. I had the money, away I went. The trees were cut, and we got them all hauled down to the lot. And the day the lot was supposed to open, it rained. It rained for 5 days. My wife didn't love me anymore. My father told me how dumb I was for taking all the kids' money. But finally the sun came out. 10 days later, we had sold all the trees, even the ratty ones that were left. We drilled a hole in the stump and whittled on the branch, stuck it in. Somebody took it. Our $400 had now turned into $1,200. $800 profit, our first real fundraising event. Then we used to have a city tournament. This was on the outdoor ice at Franklin Rink. We sponsored the tournament. We used it as a fundraising thing. We made a few bucks. The gals would take that old skating shack, the one we used to use at the tree lot, and make hot dogs and sloppy joes, hot chocolate and so. Then came the spaghetti dinners. We were the first team to take a bus to the tournaments. The Washington, D.C. trip. The raffles, garage sales, candy sales, Las Vegas night, cleanups, mother's hockey. Oh yes, there also was Bee Barn. A couple of our members were responsible for approaching the county to get this facility. That was a lovely place. You know, it was 10 below outside. Rest assured it was 15 below in Bee Barn. One thing Bee Barn really did for hockey, it was that year the number of participants in youth hockey increased twofold. You know, generally, everyone is willing to do their part on these projects. I can remember a few times we had the unique situation where we had a problem to break down the jobs small enough so that each person who wanted to work had a piece of the action. Now the budget. A few years back, Cork Ficken was president of this club, and boy, how he hammered the board of directors so that we had $100 left at the end of the season for a cushion to start off the next year. Now, I get the little mailer. I see our budget is $22,000. That's a lot of money. The cash on hand, $12,000. I think the administrators and the members of the Southside Hockey Club should be commended for keeping up with the demands of progression, both monetarily and socially. I'd like to ask you kids, do you know really how much money $22,000 is? Probably, to put it in your perspective, it would buy more than 300 10-speed bicycles. Do you know who's responsible for making this money available to you? Right. Mom and Dad. You know, let's show Mom and Dad right now how much we appreciate it. Let's all us hockey players stand up and give Mom and Dad a big hand. What do you think? Come on, there we go. You have always been leaders and instigators of these many creative and money-making endeavors, and I certainly hope you continue to do so. You know, all work isn't work. Some of it's a lot of fun. Hockey tournaments are fun. I'm sure it's fun for you participants. And it's also fun for Mom and Dad. You know, some of us, moms and dads, are having so much fun at hockey tournaments that I can't even talk about it up here. The first trips to Superior, the Superior Hotel. Oh, that was an old building. I'm sure that some of those early explorers, Lewis and Clark or Marquette and Joliet, must have stayed a couple nights there. One year we showed up at Superior. The old hotel had burned down. There stood a nice parking lot the city had made. I'll never forget those small rooms with the 16-foot ceilings, that damp smell, and when you woke up in the morning, those long strips of wallpaper hanging down from the ceiling. You know how times change? On these trips, the board used to make out a poop sheet. And this was kind of a schedule of events that was going to happen for the next 3 days. One of the items on this poop sheet was the board of directors suggests that each child take no more than $2 spending money for this 3-day trip. We had a Bantam State champ in Mosinee. Now, Mosinee was called then the hockey capital of the world, and they had a big sign when you come in town there that read the same. But those Polacks, you know, the Gorskys, the Kuklinskys, Kuski, Grajalewski, they always slandered things a little bit so that the breaks always went their way. For instance, Mosinee went into the warming house between periods. The visiting team went across the gravel street to an empty filling station. Okay, this upset me. I wrote him and I told him, we're bringing a tent and we're going to pitch it right outside the rink and have our warming house right there. Well, a few days later I got a call from the mayor of Mosinee. Now this is not a story, this actually happened. And he says, we really don't have any ordinances against it, but us Polacks have solved the problem. Now, both teams are going to walk across the gravel street. I'm really not taking a shot at the Polish people here, but these people happen to be Poles, and we all happen to go across the street. You know, we have kids like Mark Merkel, Ted Mork, my son Bob, Buster Matthews, Rick Wynn, Cal Harris. Steve Stats was their goaltender. Was in the third period. Score was 4-1. You know, 3 goals difference isn't too much in a hockey game. You can catch up pretty fast. So Charlie Merkel was standing there, and I says, hey, Charlie, you know, they had this telephone pole by the rink. It was an outdoor rink, and the score, the clock, the time clock hung on that. And the cord came down with the plug where you plug it in at the bottom. And remember these little things that always go for Mosinee? Okay. I says, Charlie, go stand by the time clock and just make sure everything goes all right over there. Well, all of a sudden there was a big skirmish on the opposite snowbank. I looked over there, and Charlie had a guy from Mosinee right by the neck. And the guy had the cord in his hand. He'd unplugged the clock. I'm sure he wanted to plug it back in, but no way he could get away from Charlie to do so. Well, actually, the score ended 4-1, and we won the championship. Then came those parties down at Dringler's Bar. Anybody who'd been in Mosinee must have been in Dringler's Bar. I remember the Harrises, Cal and Ruth, were there. They played the piano, and everybody sang, and Ruth sang, and we all danced. Later on that evening, old Hank Dringler, who owned the place, he gets up, marches behind the bar, closes the cash register and locks it, and he says, that's it. Everything else is on the house. This is the best night since New Year's Eve. We stayed there 2 more hours. One thing I learned from that, this hockey club can really work together, but it also really knows how to party together. The idea of traveling teams. You know, there's a lot of pros and cons about traveling teams. Well, one thing about it, it's really good for the kids that participate on these teams. I can remember our first, let's call it an all-star team, although I don't like the word. Art Thompson had tried for years to get into the tournament at Thunder Bay. That's an invitational 32-team tournament. They never would accept our registration. One year, there we were, we got there. And I went there because my son Jim had a chance to skate on this team. So, the first game we skated the winner of the Beltline League around the Twin Cities. And that's real tough hockey. Well, we had them 3-2 going into the last minute. And they pulled their goalie. We got lucky, got the puck, dumped in a long one. We won 4-2. Before we could get to our dressing room, the tournament director approached us and apologized and said, we'll never turn down an entry from Madison again. That really wasn't enough for me, because everybody knows Superior's situation. They have, well, an all-star thing or a traveling team. And when we skate our house leagues up there, we're skating a traveling team. So I really wanted to get to them with this all-star bit that we had. So I got on the phone, called down there, because we come right back through there. And I said, we're coming back through there this evening, and if you can get some ice, we'd really like to have a game with your Pee Wee team. So we got to Superior, they had some ice. So we got on the lake, or on the rink, and it was about halfway through the game. The score was 3-0, Superior. Marlo Suter was standing there. He says, hey, Fuller, what are we going to tell these kids to settle down? You know, they made a good showing in Thunder Bay, and they were pretty cocky when we got back to Superior. Well, that's what I did. Finally, the kids decided to play hockey. Superior never scored another goal, and we went on to wax them 7-3. We had a Pee Wee team go to the national tournament at Rochester, New York. I'm sure those kids will never forget that trip. And even now, we've got a new classification called Junior B Hockey. It's beyond all of you kids here. This classification is for high school kids, or beyond high school. We use the high school seniors who are not going out for spring sports, and all the rest of the kids that are 19 years old and under in Madison and are good hockey players. Not this year, a year ago, we had a pretty good club. We only started this situation 3 or 4 years ago. After the high school season is over, we put these kids together, skate them 2 fast weeks, put them in a state tournament, and we skate throughout the month of March, no matter how far we go toward a national tournament. But a year ago, we won the state, went to the Chicago Regionals, won those, and we ended up in Springfield, Mass. At the national tournament. I think we placed 5th in the national tournament out there. But the thing that impressed me was that after one of our games, there were 5 college coaches standing outside the dressing room, and they all had a big bunch of notes and wanted to talk to some of our players. That was the first time I'd ever been with a team that somebody was after somebody. I was really proud for Madison that some colleges wanted some of our kids. Now, Madison's hockey program is as good as any program in the country. And it's good because folks like Southside hockey help it to be good. At a high school banquet a few years back, every year they have the all-city team, 16 players. They called all the kids up front, and as I looked at them, 11 of those 16 had skated through our Southside hockey program. This year I looked at the league standings of all our clubs. It didn't tell me anything. I realized the way Dane County shuffles the teams up and down that it's hard to determine a league winner. But one thing it does, it brings the talent closer together so that all the hockey games are probably better games. There's something in the wind for next year on how you get placed in your league. I think they're going to try to instigate a pre-season tournament. And how you finish in this tournament is how you be placed to start the season out in your league. But all in all, probably half of our teams had a chance to enter a state tournament. You know, that's not bad. A bit about tradition. Anything good has lasting effects. Some families here have had 3 generations of hockey involvement. Names like the Hugheses, the Teasdales, Opine, and the Harrises. There may be more. I'd like to read a little poem that's simple but has deep thought. Sometime when you're feeling important, sometime when your ego's in gloom, sometime when you take it for granted you're the best qualified man in the room, sometime when you feel that your going would leave an unfillable hole, just follow these simple instructions and see how they humble your soul. Take a bucket, fill it with water, put your hands in it up to the wrists, pull them out, and the hole that remains is a measure of how you be missed. You may splash all you please when you enter, and stir up the waters galore, but stop, and you'll find in a minute that it looks just the same as before. The moral of this is quite simple. Do just the best that you can. Be proud of yourself, but remember, there is no indispensable man. And to you kids, remember, you're skating for a club that started a long time ago. It has met every challenge along the way. Skate hard. Think. Listen to your coaches. And be proud to say that you're a member of Southside Hockey. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Robert.
Worked out almost to the minute.
Before we started to eat, a lot of people were signing autographs. This same kid came over to Bob 10 times in a row and got his autograph. Bob said, "This is the 10th time around for you." The kid says, "When I get 10 of your autographs, I can trade them for one of John Teff's." Now we're going to meet our players. I'd like all the Mite and Squirt coaches to come up right now. You will present your team.
I guess two squads I'd like to talk about real quick. Number one is our Ice Mice program, and I think that just to give you as a membership a little report on it, there were 23 kids in the program this year, and they represented 17 new families to Southside, and I think all of us had hoped that they will stay with us and help support this club. I'd like to make special recognition to Barb and Dick Swenson, who ran the program, and also to Barb Seminaro and her daughter, who also helped out there an awful lot of teaching the children in the program the skating fundamentals. There's no hockey involved in the Ice Mice program. It was just skating fundamentals. And unfortunately, Dick can't be with us tonight. He's on vacation that he had scheduled before this was scheduled. But I think the club owes all of these people a debt of thanks for working with these kids. Yeah. I'm also been asked to speak for the Mike B program. Phil Ray, who was the head coach, and John Lukey, his assistant, also were unavailable tonight. But I'd like all of our Mike Bs to stand up and let the club take a look at its future. And let's give them all a hand, folks. Come on, Mike Bs, stand up there. Just a couple of comments about the Mite Bees. We started out slow, but boy, they sure were strong by the end of the year. We won the winter round of the Dane County Hockey Council program for our age group, and we also wanted to recognize that we have a couple of individual awards. Unfortunately, Dane County doesn't have the patches for the hat tricks and zero awards to us yet. But as soon as the patches are given to our Dane County reps, we'll get them out to the kids that won them. But on the Mite B level, we have hat trick awards for Trevin Baker and Peter Nickel, and a zero award for Jeff Seminaro. Now, if I've missed anybody, I'm sorry, but I don't have all the records.
Well, I'm from the Mite A team. Name's Toby Opine. I'd like to thank several people first. Number one, a man who was just as much a coach as I was, Pat Block. Pat, stand up. Team rep. Where is he? Dick Schwab. And 12 hockey players. Hockey players, stand on your chairs. We started out the season real slow. We didn't win a game our first round. We tied 2. We stayed in the A level. Win a round, we were starting to improve. We tied more games, 1-1. The spring round, tournament, the last game of the season, there we were, fighting for number 1. We were right in there. We lost the game, unfortunately. The league was so close that we took 3rd place. If we would have won that last game, we'd have went undefeated and taken the spring league. Then the state tournament came. We beat Stevens Point 8-zip, first game. Second game, we went on to play the Lakers, who had only lost 2 games the whole season. We lost them 5-0. Then we played the next day for 3rd place. Unfortunately, we lost the game. 50 seconds left to go in the game, a 3-2 loss. Our kids played fantastic hockey throughout the year, and I think Southside's really got a lot to look forward to with those 12 players. Thank you. I forgot to mention we have 2 players that would get awards. Unfortunately, they're not here. We have Toddy Matthews, who will get a 0 award, and Troy Terry, who got a hat trick against Stevens Point in the state tournament. Thank you.
Vince, I coached his first season this season. Our team had a little trouble this year. We didn't seem to get our players to the game, and I see we still got the problem. The players aren't even to the banquet. We did have some fine hockey players, so I was real proud of the team. We skated 2 goaltenders this year. We changed places. Let the one skate left wing and the other play goaltender, and unfortunately both of them won a 0 award. We had one boy that came out late. I'm glad he did, because I'm sure the bees would have grabbed him if he would have been there on time. And he turned out to be one hell of a hockey player. His name is Mike Glenn. I think in the future years the Southside is going to hear quite a bit from Mike. I'd like to have the skaters that are here, please stand up so that people can get a look at you. I think there's only 4 of them here tonight. Matt Whaley was one of our goaltenders. He had 4 0 awards this year. So it's been kind of a frustrating year, and it's been an awful learning year for me. Sarah Duffy was the first girl I ever coached, and I kept on calling him Jim all the time, so she had to correct me. I'm sorry, Sarah, I really apologize. We had Jay Marquardt was our captain, and it was really a pleasure to watch Jay work. Jay had 6 goals in our 20 games, and he had 7 assists. Now that's a pretty balanced attack, I think. We spent most of the year skating. We came on strong in the end of the year, and we won our spring round. We only lost 1 game, and that was a fluke, really. We should have won it, but that's the way the hockey puck bounces. When Bob Fuller was standing up here talking, he brought back a lot of good memories and a lot of bad ones. Mainly the good ones about B-Barn. B-Barn was still the best ice that was ever in the city of Madison. And there was a couple people sitting out here tonight that I'd like to have stand. And that's Joe Reese. Joe, would you take a stand, please? And Jim Hughes, will you stand up, Jim? I want you to take a good look at Jim Hughes, because he was one of the originals of this club. He's the one that got it going. Wouldn't be for him and guys like him, there wouldn't be any club here. And I think that his attitude toward the club, what I learned from him, is carried down through the years, and I'm real proud of him. Thank you.
The Squirt B coach. I'd like all of you to recognize Jim Slattery, the assistant coach this year, who did a tremendous job for us. Jim, you want to stand? Our record this year was 17 wins, 13 losses, and 7 ties. We were fortunate enough to make the playoffs to get to the state Squirt B tournament up at Eagle River. We had to play Sun Prairie. The first game that we played for our playoff ended in a double overtime tie, and we ran out of ice time, so we had to reschedule the game, and we played at 9 o'clock one evening against Sun Prairie and beat them 3-1 to get to go to the state tournament. Up in Eagle River, I don't think that we were ever out of a game, although we took 6th place up there. But it was a tremendous experience for the kids. For most of them, it was the first time that they were away from home on a hockey trip and playing with some of the top teams in the state. And to end up 6th out of 50 or 60 Sport B teams that were registered in the state this year, I think was a tremendous accomplishment. We also were very fortunate to end up the season in the Spring League, undefeated in the Spring League in the Dane County Youth Hockey. David Kepler, our goalie, had 6 shutouts this year. Tremendous accomplishment for a first-year goalie. And Johnny Wilkie and Mike Slattery both had hat tricks for us. And then at the end of the season, we were invited to Rockford to play in their invitational tournament. And the individual who was running the tournament, his wife threw the 4 teams' names in a hat for the drawing as to the pairings of the tournament, and wouldn't you guess it, but we drew Sun Prairie, the team we had to beat to go to the state tournament. So the kids knew they could beat that team, and they went out there and beat them, I think it was 2-1, just a tremendous game. And then we went into the championship against, of course, the Lakers. And I don't know if some of the kids realize this or not, but invitational tournaments, there are no rules. You can bring any kids of the age level that you're competing with. And sure enough, before the game, I heard and found out that the Lakers had brought 3 of their A team down. Well, I didn't want to say anything to the kids because I didn't know just how that would affect them. I knew how it affected me. So I told them to go out the first period and just get ahead, skate hard, and do a lot of shooting. And they did, and we took that tournament 3-1. So the season ended beautifully for us and for the kids. We feel we all had a lot of fun. We all learned a lot this year. And I would like to have the team captain of the championship game in Rockford and also the co-captain come up and present the trophy to Southside Hockey. Kenny and Joey, would you come on up?
I'm not much of a Banquet speaker, so I'll make this real short, much to the delight of Mr. Carr, I'm sure. First of all, I'd like to introduce the Squirt A team, and if I could have those fellows please stand up. First part of our season was pretty rough sledding. We had kind of a tough time of it. We were fortunate enough to win the winter round in our division and put us back up in the A division. After the first year, I thought our team played pretty decent hockey. We do have a couple of awards to give out. We had a hat trick awards for Doug Sanborn and Roger Olson. We also had a shout-out award for Jim Binger, our goaltender, who did a nice job for us as the season went on. I also would like to thank some of the fellows that helped me out this year, and I did have quite a few assistant coaches, Jim Sanborn, Gary Hughes, Donnie Annan. Also Stan Gallagher and Roger Ring for helping with the clock and scheduling the games for us as the season went on. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Pee Wee and band coaches, come up, please. Practice sessions this winter, I overheard George Fabian and his wife talking. Fabian said to his wife, "I'm sure that our children got all their intelligence from me." And his wife said, "You're right, George, because I've still got mine."
I'd probably pick the Adams anyway.
Mr. Steve Anderson is the coach, and he's not here tonight, and Mr. Craig Gerke is the assistant coach, and the kids call him Mr. Steve and Mr. Greg. Neither one are here, so I'm the team rep, so I guess I'm the one that's next in line to introduce the kids. We had great team spirit this year, but we didn't win any large number of games. We had one out-of-town weekend planned for Eau Claire, which we were all looking forward to. However, it melted, and it was outdoor ice, so that was canceled too. So we really had kind of a bad luck season. As far as I know, the awards we have for a hat trick award, the only award that I know of is Ken Schwab. If anyone else knows of any others, please shout. And 2 shutout awards, one to Ken Schwab and one to Joey Byer. And I think that's all also. Would all the PWCs stand up, wherever you are? Team 2, Mary Marshall. We needed her.
Bob Gummerhausen and PWBs. I suppose at first I want to thank my assistants. This year I used 3 of them. I had Jim Jordan help me to start with, and I had Les Mark help me, and we ended up with John Clementi. I want to thank Sarah Haas, my team representative. For individual awards this year for hat trick, Rodney Keller had 1, and Terry Haas had the hat trick. Chris Youngbauer had 2 shutouts for me. He was the first of my 9 goalies. We had a good year. We played 50 games. We won 22 of them. Tied 2 of them. We played a lot of good teams and had a lot of fun. My team want to stand up. PWBs want to stand up.
I'm Vic Skirrell. I have the PWBs. This year I don't want to release my winnings and losings. We just stress sportsmanship a lot this year. I want to thank my assistant coaches, Herman Gerke and Jim Fiskus, and my team rep, Blake. All the PWAs, please stand on your chairs. That's why we didn't win, guys. I had the head trick award for Darren Duffy, Greg Fowler, Jim Marshall, and Scott Pedersen. I don't believe Scott's here today. Chris Youngbauer had a shutout award for me. And I think I'd like to see all the PWAs down in that corner there. We have some certificates to hand to them. Thank you.
Representing the Bantam Seas, Tony Puccio, the head coach, is down fishing with John Clementi in Las Vegas, or is it Acapulco? Right, Susie? Right, Shar? Early. The Bantam Seas, here's a team that I think that the club can really be proud of. They started with a squad of, I think, about 8 or 9 boys. They picked up a couple of boys out of the Pee Wee division, and they got to the state tournament. We left to the state tournament on that real snowy weekend in February. Same weekend Bob Kaviz had to drive to Hayward for the Squirt C state tournament, by the way. One of the boys couldn't make it. We got up there, and I don't think we played with a full squad all the time we were up there. We always had 2 or 3 boys sick through every one of the games. The flu or injuries. One boy got his arm skated over. A couple more boys were sick. And the team still came in 4th place in the state. I think which was more significant, the tournament director mentioned to us up there, he said, if we had a sportsmanship award, it would go to this team. It was really something. The boys themselves were under a lot of harassment at times up there, and they really conducted themselves that make all of you very proud of them. And I think we left quite an impression on the people of Eau Claire and other teams in that tournament that we knew how to win and lose. We had a couple of awards for the individual boys. A 0 award went to Mike DeVries. I think he gets one every year. And we had a hat trick with Richie Kearns. And again, if there are other players on that team that got awards and I don't know about, I apologize to you. But I would like all the Bantam C's to stand up and let's give them a hand. And they were all helping us when we stopped at McDonald's on the way home. Boy, did they vandalize that place.
Bantam B's to stand up. Okay, where's Tony Schmudlock? Stand up, Tony. Here's one of the greatest assistant coaches there is, ladies and gentlemen. Tony handled all the defense, and I handled all the offense. And we classified our season as simply fantastic. Here's what we did during the season. We won the winter round. The first round we lost by 1 game. Then we moved into we were the only team to move from a B bracket up to an A bracket. And when we did, we won half of our games. That's pretty good. When you go down south to Boyd, Janesville, 6 times and come home winners 5 times, that is an automatic winner in itself. Tony said that we were the second Southside Bantam team to go to the state tournament. All right, here's another thing. We had a first this year. We had the only player in the history of Southside that never wore suspenders. Billy Winter gave us some pretty embarrassing moments during the season. I also want to thank our parents. Just simply fantastic. Shakey's Pizza down in Janesville, each time we just open the door, they start playing when the Saints come marching in. So they really, I'm sure they got our money's worth because we stopped there many, many times. All right, the hat trick award this year, George Skiro and Steve Fleming. We had 2 goalies, and each won a 0 award, Johnny Clark and Kurt Beecher. All right, and our team representative was John Fleming. Where are you at, John? Yeah, I believe it. That's it from the Bantam Beast, everybody.
My name is Spike Ann, and I'm the coach of the Bantam A's. And on behalf of the Bantam A's, I'd like to thank the officers and the board of directors of the club for all the hard work they've done on our behalf. I'd also like to thank Jack Marshall, my assistant coach, if you'd stand up. Sure you all know. Also, Jim Burkholder was our team rep, did a very nice job for us. I'd like to thank him. And all the parents for their, I don't know what you say, forgiveness or bearing along with me. Thank you very much. Our team record was 21 games won, 17 lost, and 6 tied. We outscored our opponents 153 to 113. We're a very young team. We have the preponderance of our team was first-year Bantams, and they'll be back next year. And I'd like to introduce these boys one at a time, in that they are the top players in our organization. Our goalie this year was Jackie Schmidt. He had 8 shutouts. Jackie, would you stand up? The next 5 boys are boys that will be going out of the program, and I'd like to introduce them. Mark DePuy. Jeff Annan. Maurice Gavin. Brad Gilvan was unable to be here. Casey Duffy. These are the boys there will be going out of the program this year. The following boys will be coming back next year. And I'd like to make predictions, but I think this is going to be one of the top teams in the state next year. Johnny Burkholder. Paulie Parisi. Russell, Jimmy Munson, Johnny Marshall, Bill Blacker, and Mark Matthews. The hat trick award this year, we have 5 boys had the hat trick awards: Billy Blacker, Mark Matthews, Johnny Marshall, Tim Munson, and Paulie Parisi came up with 2 of them. Bantam boys would get with me afterwards. We have certificates. We won the winter division of the National Bantam A League. So we'll give you your certificates after.
I've given these to every coach. When we're all through here tonight, every player, go to your coach, he'll give you one. Right now, we want all graduating Bantams to come up here right now. These are their, meaning that this is their last year with Southside Hockey as players. They hope to come back, be our assistants someday. All right, I'm going to read off their will and testament here. And we'd like to have the other boy who is connected to them please stand up. Is there any cameras in there? No. Okay, Jeff Annan. Joey Hickes, you in the crowd? I, Jeff Annan, give my father's coaching vocabulary to Joey Hickes' dad. John Lindauer. I, Doug Fosnauer, wills the dime he stops on to Circling Sam, John Lindauer. Eddie Terry. My masculine physique to Eddie Terry in case his mirror is deceiving. Leave my key to the hot box, or the penalty box, to Scotty Conklin. I, Mark Dupree, leave my offensive position, as usual, to Billy Winter because I would rather play defense. Leave my broom to Jimmy Marshall, that he may sweep up Fabian's hat tricks. And leave my Salesman of the Year award to the next year's super seller. John Clark, hope Robbie Norman can squeeze into my goalie skates. And leaves the stardust on my slap shot to Jim Brimmer. Counter to Jimmy Binger in hopes that goals are slimmer picking next year. Will my pads to Rick Skiro in hopes that someday his dad will let him in the cage. I, Bill Clark, leave my legs to Mike Gallagher in order that he may reach greater heights. Danny Gavigan. I, Mark Conklin, leave my unused state tournament trip tickets to Danny Gavigan. Casey Duffy and Sister Hera, Sarah. I, Casey Duffy, give all my verbal expressions and experiences in hockey to my sister Sarah. Go get 'em, Sarah. I, Jeff Snowstetter, would gladly leave my dad in the tree lot in hopes that next year he will be a bargain. Brian Vilbrand is not here. Mike Lane? Okay. Let's read it. Come up here now, Mickey Schmidlock. You know, a coach has to be a teacher, a coach, and a first aider. Each year we used to have a session with all the coaches, and Mickey here would present all the first aid features to us coaches. So she took time out every year to come down to a special meeting with just the coaches. She also would make first aid kits out of just plain old cigar boxes, but they sure came in handy. So we this year would like to present another outgoing member of our organization whose son now is ending his year in hockey. Here's a presentation of Mickey Schmidlock. I, Mickey Schmidlock, would like to leave the paramedics to Joyce Burkholder. We have here a little present for Mickey Schmidlock, our outgoing RN. 7 of them, 3 of them as secretary. We have recognized Susie as Mrs. Moneybags, as you might call it. She handled the ingoing and the outgoing money. It must be a pain in the neck, because balancing a checkbook for one family is bad enough, let alone 120. So here, Susie, we would like to present you this. I, Susie Norstetter, leave my slightly worn-out calculator to anyone who has enough guts to take the job that it goes with. Mrs. Treasury, Susie Norstetter. Jean Ann promises to leave her husband, Spike, to next year's Bantams. Great mothers team, everybody.
Supposed to be here tonight to give this because Marv DeVries was the head coach and he's not here tonight, and Les Mort was also the assistant coach, so I was really the assistant to the assistant. But I'd like all the mothers to stand on their chairs so we could...
$50 Wilbon, Kevin Filner. A calculator, Eric Johnson. Here a camera, Mike Gallagher. A wristwatch, Taylor Mauer. It's called... Come up here, please. Everybody. A Wednesday night, the only time you can get it. June 23rd, 4 o'clock, Olin Park, potluck. June 23rd, our Southside picnic. It's a Wednesday night, 4 o'clock at Olin Park. It's a potluck. Your new officers for next Dane County representatives, Tobin Opheim and Bill Keeper. Where are you?